Can you hear me now? Hello, and welcome to Women Exceeding's We Network Utilizing the Power of Networking, sponsored by Women Exceeding, a nonprofit organization set out to help women professionally and personally. My name is Simone Rixey. I also have Leandria Williams here with me today. A little bit about myself. I'm located in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm the Program Development Manager for Women Exceeding. In my day-to-day job, I'm a senior business banking specialist for Wells Fargo, and my job is to acquire new customers and also deepen existing relationships with business owners. A lot of what I do is networking, and I spend most of my time, about 70% of my time at work, out in the community at networking events, making connections with people, starting relationships in order to truly acquire new business banking relationships to our company. With that experience, I'm able to be the program development manager for Women Exceeding. I learn a ton on the job, and it allows me the ability to help Women Exceeding in that way. Joining me is my partner, who I also met through a program and networking, Leandria Williams. I think I'm having some technical difficulties with my audio. And I think I'm back. So to reiterate that, Simone Rixey, Program Development Manager for Women Exceeding and Senior Business Banking Specialist for Wells Fargo. A ton of what I do is networking, and that is why I'm here today. And with me, I have Leandria Williams, Marketing and Public Relations Manager. Lee, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Leandria Williams, and I am the marketing specialist for McConnell and Jones, where I handle a lot of the branding efforts for this regional CPA firm. In addition to that, our branding efforts, I also respond to our requests for proposals and requests for information, and also attend different trade shows. With that, I also train our different auditors and accountants to attend these trade shows and how to appropriately network. So with this experience, I was able to be the marketing and public relations manager for Women Exceeding. So I'm really excited to be here and help you guys get out there and network.
First, let's talk a little bit about what Women Exceeding is and what we do.
Okay, guys, so welcome to Women Exceeding. We're really excited. This is our first event. So, a little bit about us. We are a 501c3 organization that aims to serve as an invaluable resource that provides mentoring and guidance, featured stories, professional advice, and external women owned business guide to kind of accelerate and help women achieve their goals. Through our four main initiatives that are listed on our screen, mentorship, education, networking, and business development, Women Exceeding continues to strive to spread the message of unity and collaboration to achieve greatness. So today, our agenda is as follows. What is network? What is networking? How to network, building your network, and also recap and question. Today's agenda should put us just below the hour mark, as we'll get to the questions and the recap part just in case. If you guys have any questions during the presentation, feel free to use the chat box or the question feature, or email us at info@womenexceeding.com and we'll answer them during the allotted time. And now we're going to dive right into it on what is networking.
What is networking? I'm sure you've all heard the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That phrase is about networking. By definition, networking is the action or process of interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. This process of interacting, exchanging information to develop relationships is more than a way to get to know people. It's also an essential tool for career development and business growth for our entrepreneurs that are on the line, business growth. When one develops and maintains meaningful relationships with individuals and both parties are interested in mutually benefiting from the developed relationship, opportunities are easier to come by. In order for this tool to work, networking, when we say tool, you have to create opportunities to network, to gather and exchange information that can help you and your network meet personal and professional goals. Before we dive in too deep, I want you guys to keep in mind, networking is personal. The most important thing you can do in networking is listen so that you can help people accomplish their goals and they will help you in return. Is this a lot of work? It can be. All relationships require effort. So let's talk about the why. There are endless benefits of networking, but three of the most common and obvious are career development, job search, and referral sources. Career development can be helped in many ways through networking. It creates a support system of individuals who can provide meaningful assistance to you, whether they're in the same career path, in the same industry, or a mentor. With job search, networking can help make connections with individuals who may know about potential job openings and or growth opportunities for our business owners. Referral sources, whether you're looking for a business opportunity or for new clients, or you're in a corporate setting and looking for centers of influence, those are people that refer you business and speak highly of you when you're not in the room. Those people can boost your market access and credibility through referrals, testimonials, and word of mouth. Remember, it's not only done when you have a need, but an ongoing process that takes time and nurturing. If you start networking the day you need a job, it's too late. And remember, networking is a two-way process in which you provide beneficial support to those in your network as well. Networking can provide you access to others with industry insights, valuable resources, professional opportunities, meaningful relationships, friends, and referral sources for business. And I think there's something that Lee should add that will really shed light on the benefit of networking.
Just keeping in mind that, remember, iron sharpens iron. If a knife is blunt, it still continues to be a knife, although it's less effective, less useful in service. Let this encourage you to spend more time together and increase your network of people of different industries. You'll realize most of everything you need is already in one room. And Simone's going to tell us a little bit more about how we actually effectively network.
How do you network? Well, we do it on a daily basis, whether we know it or not, in brief conversations in passing with our friends, with our parents, with our family members, with former and current employers and coworkers, with our coaches and our classmates and our faculty members and our advisors. in clubs, in professional associations with centers of influence. We do all of this on a daily basis, whether you're at the grocery store or getting in your car in the parking lot, or you're texting a friend from back home. All of those are ways that we have conversations in passing that we network. Social media networking is also something that we do all the time with LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Idealist. And the most conventional and known way of intentionally networking is at events, career events, industry events, Chamber of Commerce events, panels, informationals, presentations, speed networking, where you meet a ton of people in a really short amount of time, mock interviews, and policy conversations. There's so many opportunities to network. And something to remember is a quote from Aaron Burry: don't say anything online that you wouldn't want plastered on a billboard with your face on it. Let's talk a little bit more about how we can connect with others. Making contact with mutual connections or referrals, whether this is somebody that you've been introduced to by someone else, maybe you've been giving their contact information, or maybe you met them at an event or in passing. The best way to reach out to them is email first, especially in a formal way. In your email, you want to include a brief note of introduction. Say who you are, explain how you obtained their information, and outline what you would like to discuss and ask for available times. Remember, in emails, brief and concise communication is really important because you want to make sure that they understand why you're emailing and you're not wasting their time. So make sure you get right to the point. Let them know what you're looking for, let them know who you are, and give them available times and dates. If you don't get a response via email within a couple of days, give them a phone call and leave a similar voice message referring the email that you sent. But be understanding. Not everybody's able to answer emails right away, and sometimes life happens. Always follow up with a thank you, whether they respond or not. And if they do respond, make sure that you're gracious in your thank you. There are some other ways that you can contact mutual connections and referrals, especially via social media. Lee, do you want to help share?
Sure, Simone. LinkedIn is a great way to combine most of the tips that Simone mentioned above. Sending a small note with your connection request, and from there, you will be able to keep up with your connections in a professional social media setting. You can also create a stay in touch plan to also kind of map out how often you should check in with them just to keep the relationship fresh and make sure that it continues to grow. But for those of you networking in person, we have some advice for in-person events as well.
Let's talk about event networking. A little bit of background about what I do. I spend about 70% of my time networking in person. And so I've got some tips and tricks for how to navigate the event networking space. Overall, we're going to talk about being intentional, preparing, etiquette, and setting goals. So be intentional when you're attending. Understand ahead of time who will be attending the event. A lot of times organizations will share the list of people who've registered. Find out what the purpose of the event is and make sure it's in line with what you're looking for, and set goals for yourself. Normally, I set conversation goals. So maybe if I'm going to be there for an hour and a half, I'll say, I want to have 5 to 7 conversations while I'm here that are intentional and impactful. If I've looked at the attendee list ahead of time, maybe there's someone I'm interested in meeting, and I'll set a goal to introduce myself before I go. Also, prepare. When you prepare, you're more confident. And when you're prepared, you're in more control of what happens. With etiquette, consider the formal and unwritten rules of the event. A lot of times events will say a dress code, but think even more deeply about that. What are other people going to be wearing? Is this industry specific? Be really wise about what you decide to wear. Also, think about alcohol intake. Are there alcoholic beverages served at this event? Is it really going to be a good idea to have 3 or 4? Think about those unwritten rules that aren't written on the wall. A hard lesson for me was to eat before you arrive. A lot of times we think networking events and we're like, great, there's going to be food. But it's hard to be intentional when all you can think about is the snack bar. And it's even harder to shake hands and have a conversation when you have food in your hands or your mouth. So always eat before. I know in-person networking can be scary for many. So here are some tips to stay confident. Remember your presence. Consider your poise and your body language, how you show up, how you walk into the room. Consider your tone when speaking. Always keep a level head. Be aware of how you come off to others. And remember, it's not always what you say, it's how you say it. Also be accountable. Many people are afraid that they just won't know what to say, or someone will ask them a question that they just can't answer. It's better to say you don't know and you can find out than to pretend. It'll build trust with whoever you're speaking with, which will make them want to network with you more. And keep in mind, the first moments walking into these events may be intimidating, but as humans, we naturally network all the time and we're actually really good at it.
Thanks, Simone. I'm one of those people who can't stand networking in person. Even though I train people how to do it, I sometimes lack a lot of confidence in myself to be able to execute it correctly or even at all. So these tips are sort of to help remind you that everyone networks constantly. So it's when you put undue pressure on yourself, like I do, that it becomes a challenge. And so when fearful, it's helpful to develop self-talk patterns that emphasize the positive. That could include practicing in the mirror, looking at yourself, making sure that you're practicing your elevator pitch and what you have to say, and all of these other things to help you build your network, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It's important to also prepare prior to events to feel more at ease, just fully knowing who is there, fully knowing how long the event is there a question and answer section, is there a networking part of the event, remembering not to eat during the event, all those great tips that Simone shared earlier. Also, remembering one person at a time is a huge help. I know sometimes it can seem super overwhelming as you have all these people that you want to make connections with, exchange business cards with, but it's really important to remember, just take it one person at a time, one step at a time. And don't forget to be yourself. I know sometimes we get intimidated by who's in the room and we try to just kind of show an air about ourselves, but it's super important that you're authentic so people know that you're real. It's easier to use what I like to call the interesting introduction. After introducing yourself, and when someone asks, well, what do you do? Respond by saying something similar to, you know, those people who ... I'm one of them. I am a job title here for company XYZ. This leaves the conversation friendly and open for more dialogue. For example, when I work at an accounting firm, so I tell my auditors to use this particular example. You know those people who come to your corporate office for a couple of days to take over your accounting department? That's what I do. I'm an auditor for accounting firm XYZ, and I examine financial statements. I encourage you to practice your interesting introduction. It's basically an elevator pitch for yourself. Now that we know how to introduce ourselves, let's dive into more tips about listening.
Listen. There's so many different ways that we can listen, and there's really great ways that we can ask questions to learn more. We want to start with rapport building questions. We want to avoid closed-ended questions. We want to probe for more and make sure that we're ending conversations gracefully. We've talked about how we network all the time. So let's talk about how we can take these everyday conversations and interactions to the next level by listening. When wondering what to ask someone next, start with rapport building questions. Rapport building questions are used to get to know more about people. And it's best if you can personalize them, make them unique to them, and keep them appropriate. Think about things that they've already shared with you. So maybe they're new to the area. You can ask them, what was it like moving from XYZ to ABC? Or if they share a little bit about their job, say, what is your favorite part about working at company 123? That personalizes it, and it allows them to tell your story, allows them to tell their story, I'm sorry. Also, try to avoid closed-ended questions. Those are questions that answer with a yes or a no. And oftentimes, when you have people that answer with just yes or no's, it's a pretty good indicator that they're not open for conversation. Probing questions are to understand someone better. So you can ask follow-up questions to sort of peel the onion, right? So they give you some information, ask another question that will open up the conversation more. But make sure this is genuine and not too strategic, as this is a personal part of networking. When it's time to move on, end conversations gracefully, and make sure to discuss follow-up. Let's talk about what follow-up looks like.
All right, everyone. Apologize. I'm reading the chat and I'm seeing that we're having some issues hearing. I'm trying to adjust my microphone and our volume settings so that you guys can really hear. As a reminder, you guys will have a recording of this webinar so you can rewatch it and hopefully pick up some of the parts that you missed, in addition to having copies of the slides. So don't worry if something chops up in the middle. We should have the appropriate audio and slide for you to catch up on. So apologize for that. But we are going to talk about follow-up. So really, these are just steps to follow up in some ways that you can. Making the call. If you say you're going to call, then call. Try to give them a range of times so you're not calling at an inconvenient time. As Simone mentioned earlier, a lot of times the people we want to connect with are extremely busy, and try not to take it personally that they can't reach back out to you at that time. But it's important that you keep your word for when you're going to actually make that phone call. Recording information. Try to remember a topic or a tidbit about the person to bring up during your follow-ups. For example, hi, Ms. Smith. I hope you enjoyed your time at the museum. I was wondering if it's possible to discuss the opportunities you mentioned previously. Something like that shows that you really actually listened and that you really have serious intent on building that relationship and being mutually beneficial to that person. Sending a note, email, or handwritten if it's a thank you. I know you guys are like, who writes handwritten notes anymore? I think that's the point of if you write a handwritten note, since no one does it anymore, you stand out. Follow up with referrals ASAP. It's important that you try to set up a time as soon as possible to follow up with them. Just because you don't want that relationship to go stale and you want to make sure that they still remember you. Be useful. As I mentioned before, new connections. Offer to make introductions if you know someone that can truly help them, or send them articles of interest. Share thought leadership and articles that pertain to your new connection. It's really useful for them, and then they'll remember that, oh, hey, this person in particular was super helpful with XYZ. Just remembering to be of use is one of the most important factors. Social connecting. I mentioned it earlier. LinkedIn is professional social media. Stick to that unless you're on track to be personal friends with your new connection. We don't always want to invade people's Facebook or Instagram or even Snapchat if we're not at that stage of our relationship yet. Pre-register for your next event and also share. This goes into being prepared, and sharing allows for you to continue to build your network. You never know who might need to attend that event as well, or who didn't know about the event, and that goes back to you being of use. Simone's going to tell us some more about building our network.
The great thing about building your network, as intimidating as it can sound, is you've already started. Those friends that you have on LinkedIn, the people that you talk to that maybe you don't work in the same department anymore, the people that you meet at events, or maybe you see in your neighborhood, you've already started building your network. Discuss your goals with these people. Sometimes we worry a little bit about sharing our information, and I do think that there are things that you should keep close and personal, but with the people that you trust in your network, definitely tell them what you're looking to do. If they don't know what opportunities you're looking for or what goals you're trying to meet, they can't help you. And ask them about theirs. Remember, networking is a mutually beneficial relationship. You want to make sure that it's not take, and that it is give and take, to make sure that you're both benefiting from the relationship, and that way each other are more likely to help the other. Referral contacts. Lean on your centers of influence. If you don't have centers of influence already, Try to identify people in your community that either work in the same industry as you or maybe work at the same company as you that can introduce you to other people or opportunities for business and growth. And make sure that when they refer somebody to you, that you're giving that person the best experience that you possibly can. You don't want to tarnish your relationship with your center of influence. Again, back to reciprocity. It's a give and a take. You want to make sure that your relationships in your network are mutually beneficial. Also, you've got to actively meet new people. If you're not putting yourself in situations to get to know new people, like chamber events or networking events, you're not going to have that opportunity. I was just talking to a coworker of mine today that's interested in getting into a different channel. And the channel that he's interested in joining in our company, they work 9 to 5. They don't get out very much. He's not going to be able to see them unless he meets up with them at an after work event. And I told him, I said, hey, have you been going? And he said he doesn't know anything about it. So I guided him to some resources where he can find those events and meet those people so that he can build networks and find a center of influence that can help him know when job opportunities there are available or give him a better idea if that's something that he's really interested or not. The last thing, which will reiterate everything that we've talked about in building your network, put yourself in position. Like Lee said, you've got to be useful. If you're not useful, you're no good in a network. You want to make sure that you position yourself to be a valuable asset to the people in your network and make sure that if you're in someone else's network, that it's beneficial for them. Before we review why networking is essential, let's open it up for recap and questions. Is there any part in the webinar that you missed that you'd like us to go back over? You can absolutely put it in the chat. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat as well.
Okay, Simone, I've got a couple of questions here. I have one that was emailed to us. How do I get good at networking? Like anything else, becoming good at networking takes practice. Learn what style of connecting with people works for you, and learn from those who you consider good networkers. Read some books on networking, and once you learn some of the techniques, put them into practice and tweak them as needed. I hope that answers your question. And if you have any follow-up questions to that, feel free to email us. Second question that I've received is, how do I connect with A players? I guess A-listers. As previously mentioned, networking is about a mutually beneficial relationship. It's all about being helpful. Asking questions such as, what are you most excited about this time? What are your biggest challenges? Questions like that. So once you know someone's challenges, you have an opportunity to help come up with a solution and, once again, be useful. So I have 2 more questions in the chat. Christina asks, what do I do when someone does not respond after I reached out several times? Simone?
I've got an answer for that. So sometimes we reach out to people over and over again, and we don't know if we're going to their junk mail. We don't know if they're actively ignoring us, or maybe they're just that busy. Something that I do is, in a really nice way, it sounds like stalking, but it's not, is if I have access to their social media, I'll look and see if they've RSVP'd to events, and I'll try to attend a mutually interesting event. Something that would make sense for me to be there and I can see them again and just remind them. It happens all the time to me where I just can't get back to somebody. I run into them again and I remember everything that we talked about, and all of a sudden they become a priority for me again. So if you can find out if they're going to attend something soon, or maybe you met them at an event that's recurring, try to go back to that event and see them. Also, some people have administrators or receptionists, or what some people call is a gatekeeper, somebody who helps keep people out. Try to find out who those people are and make relationships with them. When you earn their trust and they understand what value you have to bring to the table, they may be able to get you to that person more quickly. Also, see if you have mutual contacts, like your center of influence. Is that somebody who can introduce you or reintroduce you to that person? That can help you get in contact. But something that we have to remember is not everybody that we meet is going to be somebody who's in our network. As hard as we try or as intentional as we are, sometimes it just doesn't work. And don't put that fault on yourself. Let's see, next question. Any recommendations to ease the anxiety around in-person introductions at conferences, etc., in situations where it's not organic? That's a good one. I learned a practice where you really have to insert yourself into a group, and as awkward as it might feel and unorganic as it might feel, when you see little circles of people, or maybe you see someone that it doesn't really feel that natural to go up to, you kind of just have to grin and bear it. And sometimes those awkward moments create a good laugh, and laugh creates a sense of community. So when it's a group of people at a conference and you want to go up to them, look for a little wiggle space that you can get into and say, hey, can I join you guys? I highly doubt anybody will tell you no. And oftentimes they'll actually engage you and let you know what's going on. If it's a person that's one-on-one and you're not really sure how to go up to them or speak to them, but you know who they are, say, hey, you're so-and-so, I know about this. This is when that pre-planning kind of comes into play. If you can get a list of the people going ahead of time and you know who you want to see, think about the questions that you would want to ask that person. Think about things about them that you could bring up that would help build rapport. And pre-plan that. When you pre-plan, you're more confident and you're more in control of what happens at the event. I hope that helps. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. But part of networking is getting comfortable being uncomfortable. When we get comfortable being uncomfortable, no networking event, no face-to-face interaction can scare us. The hardest part is to say hello, and everything else after that should be easy. Any other questions for us, Lee?
Nope, none from the inbox. Again, as a reminder, if you guys think of some more questions, feel free to email us at info@womenexceeding.com. We'll have our contact information displayed after Simone explains why networking is essential.
Why is networking essential? It's going to provide you three things: an opportunity to connect with others, an opportunity to gather information, and an opportunity to learn. When you're connecting with individuals, it provides an opportunity to connect with others either in your field of interest or maybe an industry that you're in now, and they can provide beneficial insight. One of the best ways to learn about an industry, a company, or a position that you're interested in is to learn about it from someone that is connected to it firsthand. Building your connections will provide you with an invaluable opportunity to best prepare for your career goals. Is it important? It is important to remember that networking, like we said, is a mutually beneficial process. You never know when your skills and resources can prove to be beneficial to others in your network. So make sure as you're learning and connecting with others about what they have to offer, that you're also promoting your skills too and your interests to the individuals in your network, so that they can lead you to opportunities and collaborate you with other people on projects in which professional interests are shared. Gathering information pertaining to a particular field or industry is always essential to career growth or personal and professional development. Gaining information about a specific career related to a topic can be most beneficial and inspiring, again, when it comes from the personal experience of others. It's the best way to gather information to reach a goal. Learning about a specific field of interest and the various occupations within it from an individual in the field provides you with an opportunity to gain this knowledge, and participating in informational interviews will offer an opportunity to gather this information in a structured manner. Lastly, you're going to learn about job opportunities and job vacancies. In networking, you're increasing your chances to find out about these job openings or business opportunities you otherwise would not be aware of. Remember, we said you've got to put yourself in position to get this information. Ever heard of the phrase, like we talked about earlier, it's not what you know, it's who you know? It fully applies here. Approximately 66% of job vacancies are never advertised to job seekers and are instead obtained through some sort of personal or professional references. Employers hire candidates that have been referred by a trusted source. They're also inclined to hire recently met job seekers who have effectively demonstrated their qualifications and professional competence. So like Lee said, you've got to be useful and you've got to show it. By expanding your network to include individuals that have connections to these unknown positions, you greatly increase your chances of learning about opportunities. Gathering information, learning about job vacancies and opportunities, and connecting with individuals all together create why networking is so essential to professional and personal success.
Okay, guys, as I mentioned before, that puts us right under, well under an hour. There will be a post survey coming to your inboxes for those of you who attended. Women Exceeding is in the process of applying for several grants, and your feedback is super important to our submissions. Let us know if you have any additional questions related to the webinar or Women Exceeding as a whole. We are always looking for guest bloggers and ways for people to volunteer. Stay tuned for our next webinar with a guest presenter on debt-free real estate investment. And we look forward to seeing you at our future workshops and webinars. If you guys keep an eye out, we are having a pitch competition later on this year, and details will come via email about that later on. If there are no more questions, I believe that we can let you all go. We look forward to seeing you at future events. Simone?
Yes, and if you have any questions for us, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, info@womenexceeding.com. If you have a question for someone in particular, let us know who you're reaching out to. We are here to help, whether it's personally or professionally, so don't hesitate to reach out. That's what we're here for. We hope you guys enjoyed this webinar, and please stay tuned for upcoming webinars. We've got plenty more to come, and so happy you joined us for our first one. With that,